Do you remember any female attendees at those parties, adult females?
Yes, but it was not very common. Lynn went to one at least, and they were rare.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the women that were at these parties were escorts or children.
Mm-hmm.
So there were some adult escorts at some of the parties for sure, and then there were possibly, before it got down to the smaller group of people at the end where they really did the more brutal, more heinous stuff, that was always just a bunch of men. I can't remember women being in a smaller circle other than other people being trafficked. I can't remember any women being there.
Besides Trump, could you identify any of the rest of the men, of those 8 to 10 men that were always in the tour, in the core torture group? If you saw their photos?
He would be the only one that I could clearly say that this person. The rest of them, I didn't think they were going to kill me.
Yeah.
So they just kind of go into the memory bank of just something else bad, and the only ones that I remember are the ones that I thought were dangerous, and then Clarence because he's black, and then Lindsay just because of his mannerisms. Mm-hmm. And I remember seeing him and observing his mannerisms. What I remember even more is my dad and whoever he was with at the time kind of joking about those mannerisms. I can even remember somebody telling my dad to be careful because there were a lot of people at that party that were gay. So if he got caught like making fun of a rich person that was gay or at least had the mannerisms and demeanor of a gay person, that it might cause my dad problems. You know, So it was kind of, we can kind of laugh and joke about this a little bit here, but you better be careful what you say around other people because a lot of these people are gay or at least have bisexual tendencies, and they may take offense to that. And these are people that my dad was not in a position to offend. Mm-hmm. They, you know.
Okay. Well, what I'm going to do, I'm going to get this recording here, this second recording, and backups and so on. And then I'm just going to spend the rest of Saturday fairly quiet, doing some peaceful things, which I highly suggest you do as well. Just whatever you like to do that you experience some joy about.
Some yard work.
There you go.
If it's not too hot outside, it was pretty hot yesterday, but that's kind of what that's my meditation, that or the gym, and I can't go to the gym today.
Yeah, spend some time outdoors.
I have a set schedule.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what I'll do, like I said already, I'd like to just get the text messages we've got and the recordings, and I'm just going to figure out in terms of, there's 2 recordings now, and I'm just going to figure out whether I might just upload to a specific drive, and then I've got to look at just in terms of the logistics with the recordings. Like I said, I'd like to just post them raw with a brief summary, and a totally different context. But a long time ago, I was speaking to some folks who are at NASA about climate crisis related, and one of the women that I know at NASA was talking about all the data they were seeing, and there was so much politicization of the data that Lynn was concerned that, it was going to be a huge negative impact. Lynn's perspective in terms of climate crisis was, in terms of survival of the human species. And we'd had some discussion about posting all of these data from all these different locations, the North Koreans, NORAD, just so everybody could look at the data and they'd be like, holy Christ, what the heck is going on? And then it's like a bit more simple to try to get folks of different opinions, belief systems, to behave more unified. So slightly,
Right.
obviously, what we're discussing is quite different, but what's similar is, the truth is being suppressed, and
Very much so.
I
it all comes back to greed, and these people have this defect in their soul or personality or whatever you want to say, and they're denying the climate crisis for the sake of money, and they're denying the pedophile ring because the rich people that are involved in it want it to continue.
Yeah.
It's just a level of corruption that seems to permeate, I don't know, in almost every direction. It's not everybody who is corrupt, or most certainly the average person, I would think, would be very much against all of this, but not enough people in key positions to prevent it from happening. And that's...
Yeah.
And, to be honest with you, to some degree, it feels like the Democrats are just part of theater. Joe Biden had 4 years to kind of do some things, and it seemed like as far as policy went, it seemed like some things were going in the right direction. But where was the urgency with the guy that tried to incite a coup?
Well,
it almost feels like they're just playing almost all feels performative.
No, I understand. I think
this
Joe
side and that side.
Yeah, I think Joe Biden was trying to do the right thing, and there's obviously a lot of folks, Republicans, that are involved in the pedophile ring and have compromise against them, and perhaps some Democrats. And I think it's one of those situations where, if Biden had more information, there's a lot more Biden would have done. So there's obviously been some collusion about the information that everyone's getting, and I think what you were talking about in terms of the parties and how the parties seem to be presented, folks that were engaged in some level of criminal behavior, but wasn't the extreme criminal behavior of those that were torturing and murdering kids. And so they were all trying to play it off against them all. So all these different folks had compromise, say, on drug use or some sex acts they didn't want publicized, but they didn't know about the torture ring. So a lot of collusion, but there are decent folks, and there are decent folks that are trying to do the right thing. And I'll get these audio files, I'll get them looked at, I'll get them uploaded, I'll write a little summary. I'm sort of simmering about, just some of the logistics in terms of the file size, the right location, where I'm comfortable with the files being. And I'm, like I say, I've already looked in terms of some contacts at the Hague. One of the things with the Hague is the United States isn't part of the international, the criminal court system anymore. But I know how it can still be presented because it is international security issue, considering Trump's wreaking this sort of havoc. Now, Trump's attempting to wreak havoc on all sorts of folks in all sorts of countries regarding tariffs and all sorts of nonsense. And is it the exact MO you described with the puppies and with Patricia? So
he does seem to enjoy watching the act of suffering play out.
Yeah.
In almost any venue that he has any part of.
Yeah, and now with immigrations and detentions, disappearances in the United States, again, it's similar.
Yeah. yeah. I don't know. I just if Trump does one thing that's good for this country, it will be by being such a putrid human being, he will maybe expose much of the corruption around him, and that is my only hope for him. Other than that, he serves no positive purpose to mankind.
Yeah.
But if his level of malfeasance somehow segues into the exposing of the misdeeds of some really bad people around him, that'll be the only good thing he's ever done.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion, but
yeah.
I have watched this presidency closer than any other because of my past, and good God, everything he touches turns to shit.
Yeah.
And it seems to be that he turns it to shit in the most callous and horrible way possible for as many people as he can make it that way.
Yeah.
It's incredible to me that so many people are on board with the suffering of others, and it seems to be the almost the selling point.
Yeah.
You know, I can remember discussing with somebody the other day, I don't care if somebody's here legally or illegally. At the end of the day, that's still a human being that we're talking about. Now, if this person has gone and murdered people or done something like that, well, then they should answer for it. But every person deserves due process. Every person. And that's the way the Constitution is written. That was the one thing that all 9 Supreme Court justices even agreed on. Mm-hmm. Is that everybody should get due process.
Yeah.
And so the fact that he is denying people that and trying to convince the masses that certain people do not deserve due process is just alarming to a degree that it actually is shocking to me that it isn't a line in the sand for everybody. I don't understand the reasoning behind some people thinking that because your skin's brown, you don't deserve due process, or because you crossed the border here, which is essentially a civil matter, a speeding ticket type of violation, you know, that somehow now that person deserves to suffer to death.
On such a subject, something that I'm simmering with in terms of timing of publishing the files, you know, there's, on one hand, I want to publish sooner than later. But one of my siblings is traveling to the United States this week, and I told her not to travel. I said it was quite urgent not to travel. And she just hasn't read a lot of information. Yeah, I know. And so what I'm thinking, what I'm looking at in terms of logistics, especially since we've, you know, our discussion today, I need to confirm when my sister's traveling and her husband, when they're back in Canada. And I would want to make sure they're back in Canada before I post the audio file, just in case. I don't
blame you.
You know, because I just don't. I mean, it's one of those things, you know, I want to make sure you're in a safe location. I want to, I have a friend who's retired. He's American. He's worked as a defense attorney, but he lives in Canada now, at least half the year, and he hates Trump. And I got a call into him. He was a defense attorney in the United States, and I want to run through some things with him, see if he has some suggestions just in terms of preparation, in terms of, you know, so we're okay. So if there's a deluge of press, maybe folks will ignore, maybe there'll be a bunch of press contacts. I just want to make sure there's a bit in terms of preparation there. So, but it is really urgent, I know, sooner than later. So let's just, you know, go step by step.
Okay. Absolutely. I'll look forward to hearing back from you.
Yeah, and
there is one other entity that is right now going through some flight logs. and I think they're going to schedule talking to me tomorrow. I think it was the day that they had. So they are looking for my name and my dad's name in different itineraries to try to piece it together from a different angle.
Yeah, and who are the folks you're speaking to there?
There, I have the name on there. I don't have it on the top of my head. Hold on. I sent them an email. Let me look at my email. The Crustian Daily ICE list.
Okay, that's right. So they're looking through there. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
When you speak to them, maybe just tell them that. Don't mention my name, but just say you're speaking to someone that's helping them with. That's helping you in terms of court-related, affidavit-related, and that I'm planning on publishing some discussions with us imminently, and if they would, I just want to, I want to make sure that it doesn't get the waters don't get muddied inadvertently. I actually follow them on social media, and I like what they're trying to get compilations and all the ICE agents and everything, so that's great. But I would appreciate just from and just a bit more in terms of my background. I've spent lots of time advising folks on a whole range of subjects, and I, have a very specific approach in regards to law enforcement. That's sort of I'm sort of Clark Kent camouflaged. And so when I look at what I'm looking at, it's really about what's truly the right thing that's really going to truly help ensure there's justice. And I mean like true justice. So if anybody from any journalistic outlet tries to contact you for interviews or anything, I would appreciate if you would just decline until we can get this published, because I think that's going to really help in terms of what's the most important to get out of what we've covered raw, because journalists are going to try and edit, and we have to be careful about who's on side and who isn't. So
right.
So, and I'd like to speak to some folks that, with the human rights organizations, maybe even try to get something into the ICC before, again, sooner than later. And so talk to the folks at the Crustian tomorrow, but please don't agree to any sort of journalistic interviews with them or anyone else until we get these audio files published.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Awesome. And contact me anytime anything comes up, okay? I want you to know that, I'm a fierce warrior myself, so.
I believe I have relayed the bulk of what I truly remember clearly, but if some detail should come up that I remember after the fact that I think is pertinent, I'll just shoot you a text or a message.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've been as thorough as I can without ad-libbing.
Yeah.
I have my thoughts on the matter as well, but I'm just trying to relay those things that I clearly remember, and that unfortunately is just the small amount that I have told you. There's much more to it. It's just that those details are so muddy that all I can say is there's just a substantial amount more abuse that I can't pinpoint and be specific about. So.
No, I understand. And then, again, I'd still like to look, so we've got these files. I probably, in terms of the one file, I'll probably shorten the length just of the 5 minutes where we talk about, carefulness in terms of journalists and stuff, and my sister traveling just for safety reasons, so I'll just cut the one file short. But then for sure I'd like to look at, another interview where we talk about some of the details that are fuzzy and everything. But just peacefully, it's the right timing and things. And then, like I say, I've sort of tried to structure so it's easy to get into affidavit format and stuff in terms of criminal cases. I know you could file a lawsuit or something in the United States, but I just don't know that that's the right approach. to look at right
Right.
now. Like E. Jean Carroll filed a lawsuit, but this is a totally different level of crime, right? So,
Yes. Yeah.
which is why I'm.
And I also want to be careful that I don't come across looking like I do not care about money. I do not care about any sort of notoriety. All I care about is exposing this for what it is in hopes that it would shut down that part of the operation. I know that you can't exactly create a nirvana. You know, there's always going to be bad people doing bad things, but at this level that it's being used, somebody has to stand up to it, because we're goose-stepping towards our own crematorium, is what it looks like to me. And we're having to do that because of all this leverage on the people at the very top of our food chain.
Yeah. Well, what I'm going to...
In as much as Donald Trump has all of this dirt on the people around him, I wonder just exactly what dirt maybe our adversaries have on Donald Trump. You know, that's just speculative on my part.
Yeah.
But it certainly would seem to me that he is beholden to Netanyahu and to Putin.
Yeah, I would say that's quite clear,
So,
and certainly even involving yourself and footage with yourself. So.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
But I very much appreciate the help with all this. I've forgotten the name again, the Crustacean or whomever, they are trying to put together the different flight itineraries. So
okay.
They and possibly I'm not sure who I spoke to about that, but apparently there's facial recognition software and there's an international porn database.
Yeah.
So when child victims become adults, if they approve, and I do, being run through that system, they can, if it's ever been on the internet, they can do a lot of forensics.
Did they say they thought they could help with that, or that they might have access to some of the software?
I believe so.
Okay.
I believe so.
I mean, don't mention my name, but just mention that, you know, I'm helping you and that I might like to talk to them and you at some point. But just tell them I'm sort of looking through in terms of the ICC and I'm doing some diligence there, just precautionary.
2 people have also reached out to me that have been involved in similar types of abuse. I don't know if that would be potentially helpful. I don't know that this is under the same umbrella.
Yeah.
But one lady that has reached out to me has talked about something that's more involved than just, you know, like family abuse type of things.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, we'll look at all those things, and what I'm looking at, something that would help me if you thought about a little bit in terms of sort of jurisdictions. If you were anyone, either, you said you remembered accents and stuff, and then with Putin, just in terms of if there was anyone in Europe, and specifically in Canada, it's one of the countries of the British Commonwealth, the Commonwealth of Nations. And if there's anyone in any of the Commonwealth of Nations countries that might help in terms of with jurisdiction. But like I said, it's like really it's international security issues. So, you know, I would hope that, you know, decent folks working as prosecutors in Canada and involved with the ICC and concerns regarding NATO and the Five Eyes Agreement would do the right thing and attempt to assist. So that's sort of what I'm trying to sort out a little bit there. But I know that as a very big start is just publishing the briefings. You know, and like I say, I would send the briefings to some of the folks that I've advised during the years. I would publish and post them, and I'll contact after the briefings with the audio were published with the right preface, and right preface meaning so it was clear that what your position is, and it's clear what my position is, which is doing the right thing, right? Isn't about
Right.
some financial interest or anything. It's about doing the right thing.
Right.
Sometimes doing the right thing involves finances, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about honoring the truth.
That's it. You know, those three girls, they deserved a chance at life too.
Yeah.
You know, and these people that somehow believe that they're elevated from the same rules and laws as the rest of us decided that their own absolute monstrosity of desires was more important. And I just don't think that condition should be allowed to exist.
Yeah.
You know, I forget who said it, but evil only exists, or something about good people doing nothing. Evil exists because good people do nothing. You know, something to that effect.
Yeah.
And I don't know. This level of evil, I don't think should exist, but we will see.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna spend a little time outdoors and get some follow-up calls going, and we'll figure this out. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your help.
You're welcome. And hey, something else before we go, I'll just tell you one of my own, two of my mantras. Mantra isn't the word I'd like to say because I don't practice occultist sort of Buddhism. Two of my mottos, I guess. Honor self, honor all is one, and fangs forward, faith up is another. So that's my approach on these items, if that helps.
I do appreciate all of the help. I do.
Thank you.
I hope that my hope is just that some good will come out of this. Is it? And if that just means exposing the bad people, then so.
Sascha, I'll make sure. And how I can't even quite really speak to you about how I've already made sure there is justice, and it's much more immense than anyone else really experiences awareness of, and justice is here now. Okay.
I appreciate it. I look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah, I'll talk to you soon, Sascha.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.